All right. Welcome to Living in Infinity, episode 19. Today, I feel like we have a hodgepodge of topics going on. A little bit of tech, a little bit of X, and some some stuff to talk about with a recent episode of All In. I think that pretty much covers it. So let's get going with the tech stuff.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to start off with the launch of Google Gemini, which is the Google's latest AI model. I think this happened yesterday. I want to say um, Google has been super quiet in the AI scene. Like we've seen Microsoft obviously partnering with OpenAI. All the other major tech companies are working on their own models, and they've been very public about that. But Google hasn't really put much out there. They'll occasionally put out like some research reports, but not actually they haven't shipped anything to customers yet. And so this is the first time that they're actually presenting something that at first glance seems super, super solid. And they're also going to be shipping this to customers, I guess starting now. But just to kind of go over um, what Gemini is, it's some very similar to the latest version of GPT-4V, which is their vision model. So it's multi-model, meaning it can interpret voice, it can interpret text, sounds, everything all within one singular model. Um, and so the demo video that they did, which you got a chance to watch that, is that right?
No, I'm
No?
kind of watching it right right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It was super impressive and um, basically showed very high level of reasoning, and the reports that they had put out as far as like Gemini's performance on all the general benchmarks that the main AI models are using, it seems to beat GPT-4 in just about every category, from just general reasoning to math to code. And the multimodal version of it beats GPT-4V in looks like every single category: image, video, and audio on every single benchmark. And so seems like, this could be the first model that is actually ahead of what OpenAI has been pushing out lately. I'm a bit curious or a bit skeptical of like these benchmark scores that come out. I don't really know who sets the benchmarks and like why they are just the main ones that are being used. I don't know how accurate they really are. Um, so I don't think we'd really know how good it is until it's actually in the hands of people and you're able to use it. But this will be the first model that's actually being shipped natively onto smartphones. And so they're bringing, there's three levels of the model. Basically, one is like a light version, which is built specifically for going into like smartphones. Um, so this version is going in the Pixel 8 Pro. They're calling it Gemini Nano. But basically, it's like Siri on steroids, for example. So it'll be built in directly into the phone. Um, And we haven't seen any other company do this to where you can actually run an AI model just directly on your phone now natively. So that's super cool and exciting. And then we'll kind of see as the higher end versions roll out through Google's Bard, which is basically their version of ChatGPT. Once it kind of rolls out through there, we'll actually get to play around with it and use it, see how good it is. Um, so that's super exciting, and I'm curious to really test it out because I don't know if you've seen lately, a lot of people are kind of saying that, at least on Twitter, GPT-4 has like degraded in performance. Like there's a lot of people saying that it's just, there's so many filters that they're adding as far as like what it's allowing you to use and stuff. And that seems to be a
Mhm.
big problem lately.
Yeah, I had seen some stuff about um, like uh, not censorship problems, but yeah, the filters and whatever. I mean, I had seen a little bit of that commentary. So it's an interesting move putting this out on Google's part right after the drama with OpenAI. I wonder if that was
Mhm.
accidentally on purpose. Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like they're kind of capitalizing, and especially if ChatGPT is kind of drifting or whatever a little bit. So it's good. It's interesting.
Yeah. It's good to see some true competition step into the space and actually be delivering something for people to use. I haven't really seen a whole lot of that. Like OpenAI is still by far the leader. There's lots of companies that have potential. Like I think XAI, for example, has a lot of potential. Their AI model, Grok is what it's called. It's still in like very private beta. So there's just screenshots that'll come out from certain people every now and then who actually have access to it, but still hasn't actually been released for people to use. So I'm interested to see the performance of that and how it kind of compares to GPT-4 or something. But as of now, OpenAI is still far ahead of everybody else, especially in terms of customers. I mean, they've got hundreds of millions of people using ChatGPT. So it's good to finally see some other people step in. And I honestly, I thought Google would kind of be one of the last companies to do it just because they haven't done anything. They haven't delivered anything yet. They've been pretty quiet about it. Um, but then they finally come out with this. So it's, yeah, definitely good to see some other companies stepping in, especially after all this open AI drama. Like it's not, it was not a good ideal scenario for just one company to kind of be leading the helm on all the AI development.
Hmm. And hopefully this kind of whips the leadership of OpenAI into shape a little bit, kind of
Mhm.
redirects their focus. Um, or at least you would hope it would. I wonder, so we all this AI boom was kind of kicked off with OpenAI. Appears they've been working on ChatGPT for, I mean, what, better part of a decade?
Well, their underlying models, yeah, and then ChatGPT came out literally like a year ago.
Yeah.
But
So I just
their
wonder,
models, yeah, it's been several years.
right. And so, now Google's putting out this Gemini, which appears to be better than ChatGPT 4. I wonder what the timeline was on that, like when they started working on it. If it
Mhm.
was like, you know, only a handful of years ago, I mean, what was that process like to put something out like this in such short notice? So that would be
Mhm.
interesting to learn about.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even if Gemini is better than GPT-4, like OpenAI has already confirmed they've been working on GPT-5. So
Mm,
I wouldn't even go as far as to say that they're, ahead of OpenAI now, especially on a customer basis, they clearly aren't. But in terms of models, they could be, at least based on what's delivered and available to the public. But we don't know what OpenAI has with GPT-5. So
mm.
I would say next year sometime we'd probably see that, and who knows what that's going to be, especially with all the rumors. And granted, these are rumors, so take them with a grain of salt. But a lot of this, a lot of speculation on why all this OpenAI drama happened was because they had some crazy breakthrough behind the scenes, which Sam Altman literally referred to. He said he was in the room when it happened. We don't know what it is, but this could be some crazy breakthrough where GPT-5 is just like completely mind blowing compared to GPT-4. Um, so we still seem to be in that era of like just exponential growth of AI improvement. And I think the next year or two is still just going to be like every 3 to 6 months, we're going to see another just crazy, mind blowing breakthrough.
Yeah. To kind of change gears just a little bit, would you say that this situation between like OpenAI and its competitors is similar to that of Tesla in the sense that, they can all kind of produce the same level EV now? And then Tesla just has the leg up because of all the data they've collected over the years? Or like, is Tesla still putting out just far superior products than their competitors?
The latter, their technology is just far superior in terms of not only software but just battery technology. Because Tesla, everything they have is vertically integrated, and so they do everything themselves. Whereas historically, automakers basically outsource a majority of everything. Like they do their own production, but in terms of parts, in terms of software, these are all things that they just get from other people, and they're just kind of like the middleman that puts it all together.
So
Whereas,
that could be the difference between the two. Like, but when it comes to these tech companies, they kind of do everything in house, and that's why they're able
mhm,
to kind of compete
yeah,
on such short notice. Okay.
yeah, and to companies like Amazon or Google or Apple, they have just tons of data because they have such a wide reach of people. So
Mhm.
they aren't limited necessarily by data, whereas like other automakers, they don't have the same. If they want to develop full self driving in the same way that Tesla has, they don't have the data because they haven't been capturing video data from cars for the past 6+ years like Tesla has been. And so, um, which I think is great for the AI landscape because it keeps things at least relatively even. And like OpenAI doesn't have just this like insurmountable lead that nobody else would really be able to catch up to. So in a good spot
Yeah.
with AI, I would say, and especially with this whole leadership shakeup at OpenAI, I think that's a positive thing in the long run as far as making sure the right people are in place leading that company. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, well,
I just wonder about the extent of the problems with ChatGPT regarding these filters, and I mean, it's something we've talked about before, but yeah, if that truly is a problem, I mean, I honestly hope they just get hammered for it and fix that, because I mean, it's just kind of crap.
yeah,
Um, so I mean, I know you can probably bank on the fact that Elon's going to put something out that's not filtered or in that way, I would imagine, but yeah, hopefully they're just more steering towards that direction.
yeah. From everything that I've seen as far as like the Grok previews, there's virtually no filters on this thing at all. Like it will do whatever you tell it to, it will respond in whatever manner you want it to respond in. Um, so that's what makes me excited to use it because I think once it's actually available to the public, in the same way that people did with ChatGPT, people are really going to push Grok to the limits and like see, okay, what is this actually capable of doing? And there's seemingly no filters on this at all. So, well, it'll be super interesting to see how exactly it works and what the performance is like once there's just free reigns for anyone to use it.
Yeah. What's the timeline on Grok?
Still don't know. Elon keeps saying that if you subscribe to X Premium or whatever it is, then you get access to it, which you don't immediately, but you're at least on the wait list if you do that. And so as far as I've seen, no one has been added to the wait list recently. So I don't know when they're actually going to be ready to at least expand the current access of what people have. Um, hopefully soon though.
Yeah.
Um, I guess while we're still kind of, we just talked about Tesla. So another thing that uh, happened within the past week was the official Cybertruck launch, which I kind of wanted to talk about briefly, just because I think it's well. First of all, what are your thoughts on the Cybertruck in general?
I mean, from the kind of little I know about it, it seems cool. The design has grown on me. The performance seems unreal. The video of it beating the Porsche 911, but then it being revealed that it was towing a 911,
Hmm.
right? Do I have that right?
Yeah,
While doing
yeah,
so is badass. Jay Leno approves of it. I just saw that on Twitter or on X. So,
Mhm.
let's look it up.
Yeah. I love it. I remember when it first came out, I watched the event live. This was 2018. So it's been a while since they officially announced this, but I remember watching that live and I literally thought it was a joke when it rolled out. I thought it was like a marketing stunt. And then that was just going to be their viral moment. And then they'd bring out the real truck afterwards. And that never happened. Like that was the truck. And so it's crazy to see that now 5 years later, like not a whole lot has changed in terms of design. Like it pretty much looks exactly the same. Um, and now it's actually being delivered to people, which it's going to be, it's going to be really cool to see these finally out on the road. But what I've kind of found the most interesting about it is I've watched a lot of review videos from places like Top Gear or Car Wow, these like car reviewing production uh, companies. They're all on YouTube for anyone to watch. But what I found the most interesting is every single one of them has been like overwhelmingly positive, which historically with Tesla has never been the case. Like, for example, when the Model Y came out, which is just a pretty tame vehicle. Like it looks almost exactly like the Model 3. It's just an SUV version. Um, the every review video I watched of the Model Y, they always had at least one or two things, or negative things to say about it. And they were overall just not a very positive review. And the Model Y for the first half of this year has been the best selling vehicle in the entire world. And so
Yeah,
what
that
I
right
found,
there, that'll tie into a later topic, I have a feeling.
yeah. Uh, but then now with the Cybertruck, every single one of them has been super positive, which I thought they would all be negative because like it's an easy vehicle to hate on. Like it looks weird. It's different than all the normal trucks. Like most truck people are like, no, I want a Ford or a Ram or whatever it is. And so I went into these expecting to see a lot of negative things, but like all of them overwhelmingly positive. Like I don't think they hardly said any negative things about it at all. And so I'm super optimistic for like the success of this truck, especially given the fact that there's like an estimated 2 million pre-orders, which is just mind blowing. Like even if half of those or a quarter of those end up actually converting into real orders, this still makes it the most successful truck launch or vehicle launch ever in history. So
That's
I'm
crazy.
yeah, and it's just wild to see that a car or a truck that looks like that is going to be so successful and probably industry changing. Because I mean, trucks have literally always looked the same since they were invented. Like the same shape. Every single Ford looks the same pretty much. Like there's not a whole lot of difference between all of these, and so it's cool to
It's
just see
very
something
slow.
so wild like this.
Yeah, trucks. I mean, they've evolved a little, but just very slowly.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, there's been nothing like this that I know of. Um, but
Yeah,
it is crazy. I mean, that this is going to be the biggest, most likely the biggest car or vehicle launch in history. Because yeah, you're right. When this thing got introduced, it got yeah, just tons of hate, and it is pretty hilarious that Elon was just like, I don't care. We're gonna
yeah,
put out the exact same thing that everybody crapped on, um,
yeah.
and we'll show you. So, which is um, so crazy.
And now everyone seems to love it. I mean,
Hmm.
like I do. I don't know if you've seen, but my when the truck came out, like they started delivering them like whenever around the week of the delivery event that they just had,
Hmm.
they started delivering a couple Cybertrucks to like show Tesla showrooms in major cities like New York City, Chicago, LA. They started putting them out there, just kind of scattering them. And dude, I saw videos of these showrooms and literally there were lines of hundreds of people at all of them just to go and see the Cybertruck. And so
Dang.
it's like there was so much hate when this video came out, and now it's like the arguably the most popular vehicle in the world. Like just on like a spectacle basis. Like
Hmm.
when you see these on the road, I'm imagining that everywhere you go, parking lots, if there's one there, it's just going to be people surrounding it with cameras, taking videos. Like I can't wait to actually see them on the road. It's going to be, it's basically like a Tesla advertisement that drives around because like you see it, you know Tesla made it, even though there's no Tesla logos on there. Like you know it's a Cybertruck, you know Tesla made it. You're going to take videos of it and show people. Like it's just going to spread like wildfire.
Hmm. Yeah. So this kind of begs the question, like the because of how popular this is, do you think, and because of how love or hate Elon is, do you think there's anybody who loves Tesla but hates Elon? You know what I'm saying? I feel like
Yeah.
that is a person who probably does not exist in the world.
I don't know. I feel like there's got to be. I mean, because the products themselves are objectively good. Like you can't deny that Tesla vehicles are great. You just can't. If you know cars and you compare them to the rest of the cars in the industry, like they're objectively good. So you
Have
can't.
we have
What?
we asked Fred that question? That that seems to be a question.
No,
Okay.
no. We should though. That'd be funny.
That would be funny. Yeah.
Uh-uh. but yeah, like, so there's no denying that the vehicles are bad, but a lot of people do hate Elon. And so I feel like there's got to be plenty of people that maybe they own a Tesla, but they hate Elon, or they at least will admit that they like it. But
Hmm.
also, like, Elon and Tesla are so attached, as far as the brands goes, like, there might not be a whole lot of people that kind of fall within that weird in between.
Yeah. Like, okay, so to provide context, we have a buddy who he's not an Elon fan. Do you think if we like were in a position to offer him a free Tesla, would you think he would take it?
I think you would. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd have to. He'd have to.
Yeah, for sure.
He'd be
I
like,
mean,
but I'm not happy about it, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, even whenever he's rode in my Tesla, like, he's said, like, it's cool. It's a cool car, you know? Now, would he spend his own money on going out and getting one? Probably not. Um, but I
Yeah.
mean, I think, yeah, there's probably some people that do fall within that category. But I think that, like, the same way with the Cybertruck, how all these reviews are overwhelmingly positive. Like, I think that's just because the vehicle itself is just so objectively good. There's not anything bad you can say about it, other than maybe you just don't like the way that it looks, which that's just subjective. Like, you
Mhm.
don't beyond that, the specs, as far as like the towing, like how much storage is in there, all of the technology within the vehicle, like, it's better than any truck that exists. So
Yeah.
there's not really
And
a whole lot you can say.
not only that, but just the principle of like seeing fresh ideas being put out into the world, it just is a
Mhm.
break from the kind of like perpetual never ending cycle of like, we'll just change a little bit, it's same thing, just a little different every year.
Yeah.
Same song and dance. This is a nice, refreshing, like, boom, this is true, you know, um, creative production,
Mhm.
that pushes the limits, pushes the barriers, whatever. So it's exciting. I think for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. And I think, like, we know Tesla pushes the envelope in terms of engineering and what car companies think is possible, but I think it says more about the other car companies that they haven't done anything like super innovative for literally 60, 70, 80 years. Like,
Hmm.
since the ICE engine came out, like, and cars were first starting to become mainstream, like, there hasn't really been a whole lot that's changed in terms of like the engineering aspect. Like, yes, they're way more efficient than they used to be, and they aren't like there's some technology that goes into them now, but we haven't seen this dramatic of a shift until Tesla came around, and is basically like reinventing the whole car experience in general. Especially with full self driving. I mean, they aren't going to be these things that we drive anymore. They're just going to be these things that we get in, they transport us, and then they're like, the experience isn't driving it, it's what you do in the car, on the screens or watching movies, whatever it is that you're doing while the car drives itself. And so it's just cool. Like, companies like this kind of come around once every 100 years, and it's cool that we get to like kind of witness this as it like and get to actually experience it ourselves.
Yep.
So yeah, while we're still sort of on the topic of Elon, do you want to talk about the kind of continuation of our discussion last week on the whole Media Matters situation? I guess so. Just to kind of get up to speed, last week we talked about how tons of advertisers have pulled their ad spend from X because of supposedly Elon's anti-Semitic comments that were just, it was obvious that they were just kind of taken out of context completely. Um, but some more updates on that now. Today, actually, the state of New Mexico is suing Meta for allegedly enabling child sexual abuse material to be distributed. And so this now kind of begs the question, why aren't advertisers pulling their spend from Meta, where this is like literally happening? Like, they're getting sued. X never got sued for anything. but Meta is, and they are still just blatantly advertising and kind of being completely hypocritical on the whole situation. I mean, do you? It's obvious, at least to me, that there's some sort of like bigger agenda here. Like, what exactly do you think it is?
Well, it's really telling that none of the companies that pulled their ad spend off X are pulling their ad spend off Meta. I mean, that right there kind
Yeah,
of points to the cooperative nature of this event here. Um, but and also it just yeah, it shows the double standard, I guess is what you would call it. Um, for some reason, X doesn't fit in with their company mission or whatnot, or the company's executives' missions. So, but Meta does, and no, it's just nitpicking for sure. So
mhm. I think. I mean, especially if we look at how quickly all of these advertisers pulled their spend from X. Like this all happened within a matter of a few days, and it was hundreds of companies. Like there's no way that you could say that that's not a coordinated effort. Like it's not like these companies just coincidentally all did it within a matter of a week. Like that's not a logical scenario. So it's very
yeah,
clear that there's some manipulation here going on, and that they're being, like you said, they have double standards and just being very hypocritical because they'll say, "Oh, we're pulling our spend from X for these reasons," but far worse or comparable reasons are like situations are happening on Meta, and no one does anything about it.
yeah, yeah. And so then you just have to ask, like, okay, so who's calling these shots, or is it kind of like a monkey see, monkey do situation? Like the bigger companies pull the ad spin, and then the smaller ones are like, all right, let's uh, you know, follow suit here. Uh, yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I see. Yeah, I guess it could be China. That would be crazy. I guess it could be a thing. Could be the government. That also seems crazy, but so I don't know. But those are
Yeah.
questions that uh, need to be asked for sure, and better understood.
Yeah. For the sake of the conspiracy, I think, I mean, what one could probably assume is that these companies are coordinating to, like, they know X isn't in a very good financial state. And so they're coordinating to pull all their spends from X to help, like, accelerate them going bankrupt because they know that X is like liberating the media in a way, or liberating the voice of the people. And so they
But
see that as a threat, and
but
like, oh, we
why?
need to get rid of this.
See, well, like why would that be threatening to the corporations? Because the corporations, with the exception of maybe big pharma, like I don't think Walmart would not need to be out here manipulating the media. Um, so that to me points to some sort of deal, between them and some other power who does feel threatened by
Yeah,
the freeing of the media.
yeah, no, I for sure. And this, again, this is all speculation. I'm just kind of throwing the idea out there, but it's very clear to me that something is going on behind the scenes. Like then there is some sort of larger power here at play that is kind of pulling the strings, causing all of this to happen at the exact same time.
Yeah. Because I mean, and I mean, I think we talked about this on the last episode, but like, you know, after what happened with Bud Light and Target, I think took a big hit, and Disney, I mean, I think their revenue started to go down. It's now clear that there's a real risk in kind of going along with these mainstream things of, I mean, for lack of a better term, being woke. Um,
Mhm.
you're starting to see pushback from the market there to where it doesn't really make sense if you're the leader of a corporation to go do these things, yet they're still doing it. So why, why? Again,
Yeah.
why are they doing this? So, but yeah, do you have more to say? Or I was going to bring up that. Okay, so again, a kind of another good case here of this kind of nitpickiness. it was yesterday, I believe, 3 presidents from major, academic institutions here in the US. I think it was UPenn, president of UPenn, the president of Harvard, and the president of, MIT, I believe, gave, um, testimonies at a congressional hearing where they were directly asked, does the anti-Semitic rhetoric on their campuses, which includes the phrases like "from the river to the sea," um, I forget the other ones, but I mean, literally implying the genocide of the Jewish people. Um, they were asked, do those violate their terms of hate speech or whatever? And all 3 of them pretty much said it depends on the context in which these phrases were said. Um, and that just is very hypocritical. They're giving the benefit of the doubt to these students who, I mean, maybe, maybe they don't mean what they're implying. That seems very unlikely. It does. I mean, as just crazy as this is to say, it does seem like these students really mean that they want Jewish people dead.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, you're just seeing that nitpickiness where they're getting the benefit of the doubt, but then Elon, doesn't and gets harshly punished for it. So it's
Mhm.
just it's not fair play. It's weird. It's indicative of something going on.
I'm a bit uneducated on this whole thing, but I'm curious, like, why do you think there is such a movement with college students? Like, this whole anti-Semitic move, like, why is this happening? Like, I
Okay, this is a huge topic. I am not going to appropriately nail it down. But I can try. So, I mean, this to start, I guess part of it has to do with this decolonization movement that has been brewing in the universities. Um, so kind of what's happened over the last couple of decades is that like the victims of history have um, kind of been given a whole lot of support from the liberal side of the world, which tends to be located in universities. Now, that support isn't new. I mean, the left tends to support minorities and those who don't have a lot of power, and that's how it should be. But the left, for some reason, well, they kind of use it as like a power grab. So they'll identify a minority, a group of people who don't have power. They will support them in a manner that then that group of people like gives them power, and then boom, they're in power. That's kind of the trend. God, this is just going terribly. But um, yeah, basically what happens, I think, is that people on the left, they aren't happy with their own lives and they can't gather satisfaction from it. So
Mhm.
then they put all their hopes and dreams or something into oppressed groups and just take it way too far.
Mhm.
That seems to be a decent representation of what's happening. There's a lot more,
Yeah.
but yeah, certainly that's what's happening. And then simultaneously, they kind of take their disappointment with life, which eventually turns into hatred of life, and they aim it at those who are in power at the moment. Um, which in this case is why they hate the Jews, Israel,
Mhm.
is because Israel's the power, the party in power within this specific instance. That seems to be what's happening. Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause I've even now granted, I don't have TikTok, so I haven't seen this myself, but a lot of this stuff gets reposted on X, just college students making anti-Semitic TikToks, and they're, like, going incredibly viral, and, like, all of the comments are, like, in support of this, and it's just like,
Yeah.
that's not what like, when I was in college, like, there was no one seemed to care about politics at all. So I don't know if this is just more a recent thing or it's just the school that I went to. I don't know. But now
N-
it's like schools
No,
seem to be incredibly political.
yeah, that's something that's been brewing since the '60s, pretty much.
Hmm.
Uh, but basically, what's happened is we've regressed into this world where, we were a racist world pretty much, just in the sense that we broke people down into ethnicities and races. And I mean, that was like that for forever. But then because of like Christianity, we kind of started to grow out of that, especially in like Martin Luther King. By the time he came around, we were really starting to ditch the whole, uh, associating people mainly with their skin colors and whatever. But then something happened. Um, and we've like secretly reversed to that. So, um, like the left, they're like, to properly deal with minorities, you have to first think of them solely as like whatever they are, black. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's racism disguised as non racism. And it's
Hmm.
very tricky to pick up on if you don't see it. But then once you do see it, you're like, this is so backwards. We are,
Yeah.
we're supposed to be chilling with one another, but now we need to be worried about skin color again. And I don't know.
Hmm.
It's all messed up. But there are, yeah, again, clearly there are probably there definitely are way better people to listen to about when it comes to that topic.
Yeah. My only source of info on this general topic is just stuff on on X, and I generally try to stay out of the whole. It just seems like political tension, and maybe this is just because of the internet. I don't know, but it just seems like political tension in general is like rapidly rising in every area of politics.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't
No doubt.
it
Um yeah, has it I mean, I would say that this we are reaching like the culmination of years and years of this political tension rising.
Mhm.
I would say it's reaching its boiling point, but what you're seeing today is, yeah, the result of a lot of moving chess pieces from the past and stuff. So, uh,
What happens when we surpass that boiling point? Is it a world war? Is it a civil war?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know because I'm confused on the numbers here. I'm confused. Like, it seems like there's a large portion of the world that does not view the world through the leftist lens of oppressed, oppressor, um, victim, victimizer, but we just don't have a voice, um, quite like the left does. So it definitely seems like there's going to be this large kind of, whether it's a civil war or a global thing, but I don't think the large majority of people want that. It seems
Mhm.
like the large majority of the people are just normal, you know, you're
I would agree,
struggling,
yeah.
I'm struggling, we're all good. And then there's just kind of just this small group with a loud voice that's like, whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think by nature
Hopefully,
of the internet, these very, very small groups with a loud voice get amplified to make it seem like they have a very massive voice, but in reality, it's just a nature of the internet. And so it seems like tensions are like way higher than what they probably are. But I mean, like I agree with what you said, like majority of people, like let's call it 98% of people within the US are just normal people. Like they aren't far right, they aren't far left, they aren't concerned with all of this stuff. Like they're just kind of more focused on their own lives. And then you've got that 1 or 2% on each side that's like you said, they just have a very loud voice.
yeah. Yeah. And so basically, I'm just hoping that this kind of quiet majority can, whatever, pull through before
Mhm.
anything gets too crazy because, it doesn't, like history has shown, a small motivated group of people can really cause mayhem. And
Mhm.
that's what the Bolsheviks did in Russia, which brought about the formation of the Soviet Union. They were the smallest revolutionary group that had a chance for power there in the early 20th century. And because they were the most unified, had the biggest voice and the most motivation, power, whatever, they won and then just like caused utter mayhem. I mean, brought hell on earth. So, this it's definitely something to be worried about. And I don't. You said that the political tensions probably aren't as high as they seem. I would say they are as high as they seem, but
Mhm.
the unity among the rest of us, I think that's higher than what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Um, and so like an example of that I saw lately was the All In's episode with Tucker Carlson. So, there and I'm not sure of the political makeup of the guys on All In. It seems like there's one Republican, and then maybe the rest are kind of more left leaning, is the vibe I got. And then you have Tucker, who is viewed as this far right figure. Once you listen to him, you'll kind of realize like he's vastly more modern than you would ever initially think. But he still brought pretty right leaning views to the conversation. But it was such a beautiful conversation in the fact that the all in guys would ask hard questions, Tucker, and then provide the space for Tucker to answer them fully. And a lot of times I was getting I was picking up on the fact that like Tucker was saying some stuff that the all in guys didn't agree with really at all. But at the end of the conversation, I mean, but that didn't, destroy the conversation. They still let Tucker speak. Um, and then at the end, when Tucker got off the podcast, they had nothing but beautiful things to say about Tucker. And they were all like, that's the
Mhm.
best podcast we've ever done,
Yeah.
whatever. And so you're kind of seeing this arena of these really productive, awesome conversations occur between people who like maybe 5 years ago wouldn't have ever talked to each other. And you can look at this whole thing with X as like, oh God, we're getting pushed back. We're screwed. Like this kind of majority here that we're talking about, this quiet majority, like we're not going to win. But I think it's too late. I've kind of noticed lately this fire of like seeking truth has kind of just spread, and I think it might get ugly, it might get dark, but uh, I think we're going to pull through solely based on that
Mhm.
conversation. I mean, that's a big whatever. That's kind of maybe dramatic, but I don't know. It was very uh, good to see.
Mhm. I mean, I haven't watched that one specifically, but I have seen very similar conversations from other groups of the people on the video are all very differing opinions, but they can just sit and have a reasonable discussion. One person makes all of their points, maybe they disagree and they have some other stuff, but like it's all very non-hostile, like just objectively good conversation, and like it's just more about understanding the other side as opposed to like I'm right and you're wrong. Let me tell you why you're wrong, you know? And
Mhm.
anytime I've watched one of those videos, I find it really interesting to look at the comments of the YouTube comments on these videos, and you'll see that vast majority of the comments are just the people talking about how a well-balanced discussion it was. It's not like you have people in the comments fighting each other or saying like, "Oh, you should have pushed back more on this." It's like people like these, very well-balanced, happy, normal conversations. And so I agree. I think that's a lot more common these days, and there's a lot more unity just from the sake of like these being so publicly broadcasted, whereas before that wouldn't really be the case.
Yeah, no, it's exciting for sure. And I think that too, like another. This is a little different than the All in Tucker episode, but like so we've talked about Vivek. before here, Ramaswamy. Um, so I'm seeing more of like his type of his operations, which are very, he'll just call you on your shit.
Mhm.
So we saw that last night with, I think it was last night, but in the Republican debate, I mean, he was just up there like roasting Nikki Haley, calling out all these kind of things that are thought of as conspiracies, but now we're learning, there's a little more validity to them there, like with January 6th or whatever it is. Um, and so we're kind of seeing this more like speak truth to power movement come up too. And so, you see that, and then you see this kind of unity. Um, think of what you will of Vivek. Um, it's what he's doing is hostile kind of conversation, high risk stuff, but I don't know. I think it's positive ultimately. So,
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure we've talked about this like several episodes ago, but I think as the years pass, it's going to become increasingly obvious how important of a move it was for X to get bought out by Elon and kind of liberated. Um, I think that's a big driver of all of this. And I mean, even features like community notes, which I think is just the most awesome feature ever. Like there's usually I would be in the habit of reading responses to tweets, and then you would see someone be like, "Oh, this is actually false. Like, here's what actually happened." Blah blah blah. But it's like a lot of people don't ever see that. And now it's like anytime you see a tweet that has like a misleading headline or like something that's just completely misconstrued, it always is going to have a community note on there with the actual truth on it. And
yeah.
I love seeing that because some of them are like wildly different. Like you could just completely mislead millions of people because your tweet went viral and you get away with it. Like no one would ever really call you out on it because no one would know any better.
Mhm.
But now it's like that doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah. No, I
So
wish I had some pulled up. There are some awesome examples of people just getting like absolutely blasted for lying or being
mhm,
wrong or whatever. I mean, being wrong, like, I'm wrong every day, but these are like, you were lying. And then you're called
yeah,
out. It's so good.
yeah, yeah.
And I love
So
it
I
too,
think
because they send the notification, they send the update. If you like a post before the community
oh
notes
right,
gets
yeah,
added, oh yeah,
hmm
it'll let you know. They're like, no, go check that again.
yeah. That's awesome. And I think too, it's great that any post that gets community noted, you aren't going to get ad revenue from that. Because you could just
Mm,
make something completely misleading, have it go viral and make a ton of money off of it. But, if it gets community noted, then you're not gonna like they're disincentivizing people writing misleading posts because usually they do it for exposure, right? And
yeah.
now with X's revenue sharing program, like you would actually get paid to mislead people and make viral content. But now it's like, no, you're forced to say the truth or you're not going to get the reach and the money that you would before. Um,
Yeah.
so all in all, it's just like super, super productive, I think.
Yeah. Um, one thing, so I recently read this book. Actually, I have it here. I mean, it's not gonna be much to show it to you, but his name is Rob Dreyer. I believe that's how you
Hmm.
pronounce it. There you go.
Hmm.
Dreher. It's titled "Live Not by Lies." And in it, he talks about how it was the establishment of small Christian communities throughout Eastern Europe that brought about the downfall of the communist movement over there in the Soviet Union. Um, and so what I want to mention here is that, while we have X as it is, it's a great, awesome thing. But, you recognizing the position we're all in, we could lose X, whether it's from this ad thing or, I mean, God forbid Elon gets taken out, which there was that, did you see there was that, guy that had planned that like attack on the Cybertruck event, I think in Florida?
No, I did not see that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think his goal was to like wipe out a lot of people and do a lot of damage. So, there's
Oh,
definitely
wow.
this risk posed here to Elon. So the future of X is rocky for sure. But if I've taken anything away from this book, it's that it's important for us all to go about establishing our own small inner circles, communities, places where we can go have the type of conversation that we're having here on X. And I mean, not that this is on X. Are these on X?
No, just YouTube.
Whatever. But yeah, have these communities where you can go have interesting, honest conversations. Because even without X, those are good enough to, you know, fix the system. Um, so, you know, they brought down the Soviet Union. God dang, they can bring down
Mhm.
anything. So it's just something, food for thought. But
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
and
overall, I agree with your sentiment earlier of just being pretty optimistic on where things are headed. I mean, there's a lot of noise that you kind of have to filter through, and it's very easy for things. I think it's very easy for people to come to the conclusion that like things seem bad, but um, I think if you kind of zoom out and look more into the future, that at least in my opinion, things are looking really optimistic for sure.
yep, yep, same here.
I
It'll
think
get
that's
darker though,
probably
I think, just
yeah.
here in the short term. But
I could see that ups and downs for sure, but the macro view, the long term view, I think we're trending in the right direction.
yep,
So I'd say that's probably a good spot for us to wrap here. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll be back next week with a new episode.